How to register on goAML as a reporting entity. First of all, please click on the link that you can see on the screen, then navigate to Systems and click on Production goAML Web. You will then see the pop-up screen that you can see now, and in this pop-up screen you need to use the username that you received from webmaster@eservices.centralbank.ae, and the password should be the Google Authenticator passcode. You will then be directed to the goAML homepage. Click on Register as a new organization as shown on the screen. Fill up the registration form as seen on the screen with the organization details. Before filling up the registration form, make sure that you have created a group email address to receive the goAML system notifications. You will then need to start by selecting Reporting Entity at the top of the page, then moving on to the organization type. Please make sure that you select the organization type according to your trade license, and please ensure that it ends with the acronym of your supervisory body. The next thing is to answer the question, is it a financial institution or not? This means that if the registering entity is a financial institution like banks or exchange houses, the correct answer is yes. However, if this is a DNFBP, then the correct answer is a no. Then moving on to the organization name, please make sure that you type it down according to your license, and then move on to acronym and type down the abbreviation of the organization name. Afterwards, you will need to type down a Swift code or a BIC code. That Swift code or BIC code is only dedicated for financial institutions, hence in case of DNFBPs, it's always not applicable. Please enter the trade license number in the incorporation number field. Then move on to business activity and select your business activity according to the licensed business activity that is suitable to the organization type selected above. Move on then to the commercial name and enter the commercial name as per your license, and then move on to the incorporation city, state, and country. Here you will need to type down the incorporation city and state and select the country from the drop-down list. Then in the name of holding company field, if it's applicable, you can populate it. If it's not, you can leave it blank. And then you can move on to the contact person. Here the contact person needs to be the name of the money laundering reporting officer or the user who is registering the organization. This user needs to be authorized by the organization before registering the organization. And then move on to the email field. In that email field, please make sure that you type down the group email address that you've created for the purpose of receiving notifications from the goAML system. And then move down to the website field and type down the company's website if available. Continue to fill in the organization's contact details. First of all, move to Phones and click the plus sign and add the contact type and the communication type, country code, the number, and the extension number. And if you would like to add any comments for us, please leave them there, then click on Add. And then do the same for the address. Please click the plus sign next to addresses and enter the details of the address of the office, and then click Add to save it. The second part of the registration form is directly related to the registering person or the money laundering reporting officer. The registering person should create his own username and note it down somewhere and save it, and then should fill up the email field with his own official email address. Then the user should create his own password and confirm it in the second field, and then move on to fill up the details of the user by populating the first name, the last name, his birth date, and his Emirates ID. Then moving on to nationality, occupation, and his ID number. If passport details are available, the user can click the yes next to the passport and the passport details screen will open up or he need to populate all the details there. The registering person should then upload supporting documents requested by the regulator. These are a valid Emirates ID, a copy of an authorization letter from the employer, and a copy of the company's valid trade license. Before submitting the request, the registering person should make sure to type in the CAPTCHA code, and if there are any issues with the code available on the screen, please make sure that you refresh it before typing it once more and submitting the request. Once the registration request is submitted, a registration submitted form screen will appear. That pop-up screen will show you the registration reference number. This reference number is quite important and is to be used for any registration-related inquiries with your regulator. Once the request has been submitted, the supervisory body will be responsible for authenticating and verifying the registered applicant, along with the required documents in the form of attachments, and will be approving or rejecting the registration accordingly. Once your request is approved, you will receive a system notification email that contains your organization ID. This organization ID is quite important because it will be needed if the organization wishes to register additional users. If an organization has several users besides the MLRO, then each additional user will need to register themselves using the received organization ID. That organization ID was sent in the notification email from the system that informed the MLRO or the admin user that the organization request has been approved. The MLRO or the main user who registered the organization initially will be the admin user of the organization and will be able to approve or reject any additional user registration requests. Each additional user can register themselves as persons under the same organization by clicking on the Register a New Person on the home page of the goAML web. The form in front of us will pop up on the screen and the person will need to register themselves by filling up that registration form. At the top of the page, you will see that the user will need to type in the organization ID that they belong to. That can be obtained from the MLRO. You should have received an email once the organization was approved. That system notification email will contain the organization ID. Hence, please type in the organization ID in here before you start. Then move on to create your own username and please note it down and do not lose it. And then enter your official email address in the email field. Move on to the password and create your own password and note it down for future use and confirm the password next. Then moving on to the rest of the registration form, the person will need to populate his details in that part. That will be the first name, the last name, the date of birth, the Emirates ID, the nationality, the occupation, and the ID number. If the person would like to populate his passport details as well, he can click on yes, and the passport screen will pop up and then he can put in his details there. Before submitting the request, the person will need to upload a copy of their Emirates ID and any other documents that the organization wishes. Before moving to the Submit the Request button, the user will need to type in the CAPTCHA that is seen on the screen, and if there are any issues with the CAPTCHA, the person can then refresh it before moving on to submitting the request. How to approve additional users. The main user or the registering person of the organization, that is the person who registered the organization the first time or the MLRO, is the admin user of the organization. He will be able to approve or reject any additional users' registration requests. To do that, the MLRO will need to navigate to the admin menu and then select User Request Management. The User Request Management screen will appear. Then the MLRO will need to click on the hyperlink that is seen in blue on the screen, or click on the eye icon on the right side of the screen. The MLRO will then be able to see the request details in front of him on the screen. He will need to check the details provided by that additional user, and if satisfactory, the MLRO can approve them by clicking on the Finalize button. However, if they are unsatisfactory, the MLRO can reject them by clicking on the Reject button after obviously putting in the remarks or the reason for rejection in the comments box. How can an admin user control user access rights? An organization has one admin user role, or the MLRO. This user is the person who registered the organization on the goAML for the first time. The admin user can grant admin rights to other users within the organization by navigating to the admin menu and selecting User Role Management. The admin user can then select the user he wishes to grant admin rights to. Afterwards, he will need to check the box next to the RE admin role as shown in the screen and then click Save. How can the admin user add different roles for the organization's users? The admin user may add a new role for their organization. He can navigate to Admin menu and then select User Role Management. Click on Add a new role for this entity. The system will then allow the organization's admin to create a new role for their organization in which they can specify their own access rights for different types of users in the organization. Once all registration requests have been successfully approved, any user needs to know how to log into the system. To log into the system, please click on the link that you can see on the screen now, and then navigate to Systems and click on Production goAML Web. You will then see this pop-up screen where you need to use the username received from webmaster@eservices.centralbank.ae and then use the Google Authenticator passcode as your password. You will then be directed to the goAML homepage. Please click on the Login button. Type in the username and password that you created at the time of registering on the goAML and click Login. You will then be directed to the home page. How to access the goAML message board. The goAML message board is an internal means of communication between the goAML users and the FIU. Organizations are immediately notified if their reports are accepted or rejected via the message board. To view your messages, please select the message board from the menu bar as you can see on the screen. The goAML message board is loaded and the inbox will be displayed. This is how the message board inbox looks like. It is exactly like an email. The message board interface consists of a navigation panel and a tabular list of messages. The navigation panel offers hyperlinks for the following views. Write a new message, reply to the currently selected message, edit, create, and delete folders, search all messages, mark selected messages as read, mark selected messages as unread, delete selected messages, move selected messages to another folder, reload currently selected folder, all incoming messages, all draft messages, all outgoing messages, all archived messages, an optical reminder you can set if you want to draw your attention to the message, no processing features, it looks like a flag. While initiating a message to the FIU, please ensure the applicable message type is selected.